Hey, what's going on, everyone? Hope you're all doing great today. So, Battlefield fans, this one's for you. There's a brand new update rolling out, and yeah, it's the big one. Battlefield 6 update 1.80002 is here, and it's not just some minor patch that tweaks a few numbers. This is one of those updates that changes the whole feel of the game, the kind that makes you stop and actually notice things playing differently. It's the day one patch, the version that's getting the game ready for full launch, and EA is calling it an update that includes over 200 fixes, adjustments, and improvements. And honestly, that's not something we hear every day with a launch patch. Usually, they iron out just a handful of bugs, but this one's a major overhaul. Now, first off, let's talk about what this means for players. If you've been following the pre-release build or got in on early access, you probably noticed some stuff felt a little rough around the edges. Animations that didn't quite sync, recoil that felt off, maybe even a few weird issues with vehicle controls or weapon attachments not displaying right. Those things stood out. And apparently DICE noticed too, because this patch specifically targets those pain points. They've tuned player movement, adjusted recoil behavior, fixed gadget animations, polished vehicle interactions, and even touched up lighting and performance on multiple maps. So, yeah, it's a serious tune-up before the game fully goes live for everyone. One of the biggest changes people are already talking about is the recoil rebalancing for automatic weapons. If you've played Battlefield 6 for even a short time, you probably felt that some of the guns just sprayed a bit too wildly when you tried to hold down the trigger at longer ranges. Now, that's intentional to an extent. Battlefield has always had that control your bursts philosophy, but the update makes that feel much more deliberate. The new recoil pattern rewards you for tapping or bursting instead of just going full auto across the map. The result is that close-range gunfights still feel intense and fast, but when you try to hit targets at a distance, you'll need to pace your shots, use bursts, and manage recoil with a bit more skill. It gives firefights more texture, and it rewards precision instead of pure spam. It's a small change mechanically, but gameplay-wise, it changes everything. Movement is another area that's been cleaned up big time. EA said the movement system now feels more responsive, and that's exactly how it should have felt at launch. Before this patch, some players mentioned that vaulting felt clunky, or there was a delay when transitioning between sprinting, sliding, and aiming. It wasn't game-breaking, but it was one of those little frustrations that added up over time. After the update, that stuff feels smoother. Animations link together better, meaning when you slide out of cover or vault over a barrier, it feels fluid instead of janky. Your character reacts faster, which makes the game feel more reactive and immersive. That's one of those subtle quality-of-life changes that make you go, oh yeah, that's how it should have felt. They've also made some adjustments to gadgets and vehicles, which were definitely overdue. One example is the LTLM2, the laser designator. Before the patch, it had a few weird visual and animation issues, but now that's been fixed. Same goes for the MBT La La, which is now the default launcher for engineers. This thing's guidance system and trajectory have been improved, which means locking onto vehicles feels more reliable. They even fine-tuned the MAS 148 Glaive missile system to improve its tracking and lock-on consistency. These are the kinds of changes that hardcore vehicle players are going to appreciate because those little inconsistencies could make or break a match. And speaking of spawn mechanics, they've limited deploy beacons to 1 per player, with a max of 4 per squad. This prevents those frustrating situations where an entire squad could spam beacons all over the map and create endless respawn chains. It adds a layer of strategy. You'll actually have to think about where to place your beacon instead of just dropping one anywhere. And man, let's talk about the maps. DICE put in some serious work on map adjustments, especially for modes like Rush and Breakthrough. Those 2 modes are where map flow really matters, and apparently, some of the launch layouts weren't balanced as well as they could have been. Certain choke points were easy to hold, while others left attackers with no cover or advantage. This patch reworks those layouts to make engagements fairer and pacing smoother. Plus, they fixed lighting and performance on Operation Firestorm, which had been causing frame drops and visibility problems in some areas. They also fixed out-of-bounds and spawn kill issues on Siege of Cairo, which were pretty frustrating for anyone stuck in those zones. All these small map tweaks add up to a more balanced experience overall. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about the interface and audio side of things, because those often get overlooked, but they really affect how the game feels. The update improves the HUD, adds animated pings, gives better minimap options, and includes some new accessibility settings like a VO volume slider and reduced camera roll. And honestly, those are really thoughtful changes. That camera roll toggle in particular is a big deal for people who get motion sickness during intense firefights. It's great to see DICE thinking about accessibility in practical ways. Plus, they've cleaned up audio so things like pings, weapon fire, and voice lines are clearer in the mix. Sometimes in chaotic matches, the soundscape can get muddy, but this should help players better distinguish what's happening around them. Now, the big technical improvement, and one that's going to make competitive players very happy, is the network and netcode upgrade. EA mentioned that this update includes improvements to reduce desync and make time-to-death moments feel fairer. Basically, they're addressing those moments where you die around a corner or take damage before you even see the enemy. We've all been there. It's infuriating. With this patch, hit registration and sync between clients should be more accurate. DICE also confirmed that servers are running at a 60 Hz tick rate at launch, which is solid, though not quite at the competitive gold standard of 120 Hz or higher. Still, for a large-scale game with Battlefield scope, 60 Hz is respectable and will go a long way towards smoothing out inconsistencies. In short, you should notice fewer "I swear I was behind cover" moments. As for download sizes, they're actually not too bad. On PS5, the patch comes in at around 673 MB, and on Xbox Series XS, it's roughly 1.47 GB. On PC, the size can vary depending on region and platform, but it's in that same ballpark. Considering it includes over 200 changes, that's surprisingly efficient. If you preloaded the game, the update should install automatically before launch day, so you'll be good to go. And if you've got a physical copy, keep in mind that the patch is required before you can jump into the main experience. Some players have mentioned you might be able to access offline content without it by disconnecting from the internet during installation, but that's not guaranteed. If you're planning to play campaign or multiplayer at launch, just make sure that update is downloaded. It's worth it. So, what's the bigger picture here? What does all this really mean for Battlefield 6 at launch? Well, this update tells us something important. EA and DICE are listening. They're paying attention to early feedback and actually acting on it before the game even fully hits shelves. It's a sign they're trying to make Battlefield 6's launch smooth, polished, and balanced. Remember how Battlefield 2042 had a rocky start? This is the opposite approach. They're trying to make sure this new Battlefield lands strong right out of the gate. And based on early impressions, it feels like they've learned from past mistakes. The polish, the responsiveness, the network tweaks, it all adds up to a more complete, more confident game. And if we're talking about gameplay impact, this patch subtly shifts how players will approach combat. Recoil rebalancing means you can't rely purely on spraying and praying anymore. Instead, controlled bursts, weapon discipline, and positioning become more important. Movement being smoother means aggressive players who like to flank or push hard will feel more empowered. With deploy beacons limited, squads have to communicate better about where to respawn. These changes all encourage more teamwork and tactical thinking, which is what Battlefield has always been about. And that's something fans have wanted for a long time, to bring back that authentic Battlefield rhythm of chaos mixed with coordination. So, for anyone wondering if this update is worth getting excited about, the answer is yes. It's not just a routine fix, it's a foundational one. It's preparing Battlefield 6 for its live debut. And it's doing so in a way that genuinely respects the player base. And, it's refreshing to see a major studio drop an update this significant before release, instead of months later. It shows they're being proactive. Sure, there'll still be issues to iron out. It's Battlefield, there always are. But this sets the right tone. It's a game that feels like it's been stress-tested and tuned to deliver that large-scale cinematic warfare experience the series is known for. Oh, and before I wrap up, there's something worth mentioning about what comes next. EA already confirmed a post-launch roadmap with seasonal updates, balance patches, and community events starting later in October. That means the game's going to keep evolving, and if this update is anything to go by, we can probably expect future patches to be just as comprehensive. That's a good sign for the long-term health of the game. So yeah, Battlefield 6 Update 1.002, it's the real deal. It sets the stage for what could be one of the most stable and feature-complete Battlefield launches we've had in years. The movement feels cleaner, gunplay is sharper, the maps play better, and even the little things like sound design and accessibility got attention. If you were on the fence about how this game was shaping up, this update might just change your mind. It's shaping up to be a strong return for the franchise, one that's learning from its past and aiming to deliver a smoother, smarter, more grounded Battlefield experience. That's pretty much everything you need to know right now. But I'll keep an eye on any new tweaks or hidden changes that show up once the full launch goes live. If there's something worth breaking down, like weapon tuning or map adjustments that really stand out, I'll talk about it here too. But for now, if you've got the game preloaded, go ahead and get that update downloaded, because this patch is setting the tone for the launch we've all been waiting for. And honestly, it's looking good.